I swear, my brain just completely short-circuited the moment she opened that door. 1 second, I'm wrestling with my last moving box, picturing myself finally home, you know? The next, there's this woman standing there, looking at me like I was the one with the nerve. Like I was trying to sell her something she absolutely did not want. "Can I help you?" she asked. Her voice was flat, no warmth at all. I live here," I blurted out, my mouth running way ahead of my brain. I corrected myself, I'm supposed to live here. Unit 4B. Her expression didn't budge. Not one bit. "You have the wrong place." "No, I don't." My hands started fumbling for my phone. They felt like clumsy oven mitts as I pulled up the lease confirmation email. "See this address?" I held it out to her, the screen practically vibrating in my shaky grip. "Today's move-in day." She just glanced at the screen, and that's when I saw it, a flicker. Not recognition, though. Pure confusion. "Who are you here with?" "Caleb," I said. "Caleb Miller. My boyfriend." The word boyfriend felt so automatic, so real, like it still meant something. Like I hadn't just uttered it to a total stranger who was now staring at me like I'd sprouted a second head. "Caleb's my boyfriend," she said. The hallway actually, physically tilted. My stomach dropped like a stone. "That's not possible. We've been together over a year." Her voice was sharper now, a little defensive. "We signed this lease 2 months ago." I shook my head, my phone still clutched like it held some magic power to rewrite reality. "I co-signed this lease 3 weeks ago. My name's on it." Her mouth opened, then closed again. She looked past me, into the apartment, then back to my face, and that's when I saw it. The same sick, gut-wrenching realization that was currently tearing my own world apart. "Show me," she said. I pulled up the PDF. My signature. The credit report authorization. The deposit confirmation, a cool $1,500, straight from my bank account. She took my phone without even asking, scrolling, her face going paler with every swipe. "He told me his sister co-signed," she whispered. "I'm not his sister." She handed my phone back, then pulled out her own. Her fingers flew, fast and angry, tapping furiously. She turned the screen towards me. It was a lease agreement for the exact same apartment. Same address. Her name, Maya, where mine should have been. "He told me you were his cousin," I said, though I honestly didn't know why I was explaining anything at that point. My chest felt like it was caving in. She stepped back from the door. "You need to come inside." I didn't move. Every single instinct screamed at me to grab my boxes and run. To get back in my car and pretend this was just some cosmic clerical error, that it would all sort itself out if I just left. But I didn't. I picked up the nearest box, a heavy one, and followed her into the apartment. It was fully furnished. A gray couch I'd never seen. A coffee table with a single candle on it. Pictures on the wall. Pictures of her and Caleb, smiling at the camera like they'd been doing this for years. She saw me staring. "He said he got those at a thrift store." Said he liked the frames. I set my box down on the floor. It hit harder than I meant it to. "When did you move in?" 2 weeks ago. "He's been here longer." "He had the keys a month before that." A month. I was still sending him Pinterest boards of kitchen backsplashes a month ago. "Where is he?" I asked. "Work." "He's always at work on Thursdays." She glanced at her phone, then at me. "Or that's what he tells me." The apartment smelled like vanilla. There was a grocery list on the fridge, in handwriting I didn't recognize. The rug under my feet was cream-colored and clean, like someone actually cared about this place, like someone lived here. I don't understand, I said, and my voice cracked. We've been talking for 3 months. He said we'd move in together. He sent me videos of the empty unit. He sent me videos, too. We stood there in the middle of the living room. 2 people, handed the exact same script, told to perform it in separate theaters. She crossed her arms. I'm calling him now. Right now. She didn't wait for me to agree. She tapped his name, put it on speaker, and I felt my stomach lurch as the ringtone filled the quiet room. He picked up on the second ring. Hey, babe, what's up? His voice was so casual, so normal, like he wasn't currently the absolute center of a disaster he'd built with his own 2 hands. Where are you? She asked. Work? Why? Everything okay? It wasn't a question, it was a trap. There was a pause. Not long, maybe 2 seconds, but I heard it. The hesitation. The mental scramble. Yeah, he said. Why are you asking like that? Because there's a girl in our apartment who says she co-signed our lease. Silence. Not the kind of silence that comes from surprise. The kind that comes from being caught. Maya, her name's on the lease, Caleb. That's. Hold on. Let me explain. Explain what? Her voice was rising now, sharp and raw. Explain why you have 2 girlfriends, 2 leases, 2 deposits? It's not like that. Then what is it like? I could hear him breathing on the other end. Fast. Panicked. I'm coming home, he said. Don't bother. She hung up. The apartment was silent then, except for the hum of the refrigerator and the frantic pounding of my own heartbeat, loud in my ears. She looked at me. What's your name? Chloe. Maya. She didn't offer her hand. How much did you give him? $1,500 for the deposit. Another $800 for first month's rent. Her jaw tightened. Same. The number just sat there between us, stark evidence. 2 deposits. 1 apartment. 1 man who'd somehow convinced both of us we were the only ones who mattered. Maya walked to the kitchen and came back with her laptop. She opened it on the coffee table and pulled up a folder labeled lease docs. Sit, she said. I sat. She turned the screen toward me. Bank statements. Emails, text screenshots, a timeline that stretched back 14 months. This is everything, she said. Now, show me yours. I opened my phone and started scrolling back to July. The first message from Caleb was a reply to my Flutter profile. Something about how he'd never met anyone who listed true crime podcasts and baking as hobbies in the same breath. It was charming, disarming, the kind of opener that didn't feel like it came from a script. We matched on a Tuesday. By Friday, we'd moved to texting. By the next week, he was sending voice notes on his lunch breaks, talking about his day, asking about mine. He worked in sales, he said. Traveled a lot for client meetings. His schedule was unpredictable, but he always made time to check in. Maya scrolled through her own phone, her face unreadable. When did you 2 start talking? July 9th. She looked up. We started dating in April of last year. The math didn't even need to be done. He'd been with her for over a year when he swiped right on me. Did you ever meet in person? She asked. Twice. Coffee first, then dinner a week later. He said he wanted to take things slow. I laughed, but it came out bitter. Guess that makes sense now. He told me he was visiting his mom both those weekends. I pulled up a photo he'd sent me from our second date. A selfie of the 2 of us outside the restaurant, his arm around my shoulder, grinning like he'd just won something. Maya leaned over to look, her expression still not changing. She'd probably seen 100 photos just like it. He sent me videos of the apartment, I said. Walked through every room, talked about where we'd put furniture. He even joked about arguing over shower curtains. Maya pulled up her camera roll and turned the phone towards me. Same apartment, same empty rooms, same excited commentary, except it was her he was talking to. He told me his credit score tanked after his ex destroyed his finances, I said. Said he was working on fixing it, but needed help in the short term. He made it sound like he was embarrassed. He told me the same thing. Said his sister was going to co-sign but bailed last minute. I'm not his sister. I know. We sat there, phones between us, staring at two versions of the exact same con. The evidence was overwhelming, but the explanations kept trying to claw their way up my throat. Maybe it was a misunderstanding. Maybe there was some reasonable explanation for how two women ended up on the same lease with the same man who'd promised both of them a future. But there wasn't. There was just Caleb. His voice notes. His carefully timed responses that always came fast enough to feel attentive, but slow enough to make me wonder if I was bothering him. Maya set her phone down. Did he ever stay over at your place? No. He said his work schedule made it easier to stay at hotels near his clients. Said he didn't want me to feel like he was using my apartment as a crash pad. She nodded slowly. He's been staying here for a month. Before that, he was at my old place 3 nights a week. What about the other nights? Working late. Visiting his mom. Crashing at a friend's place because he didn't want to drive home tired. Her voice was flat, practiced, like she'd recited these excuses so many times they'd stopped sounding suspicious. I never questioned it. Neither did I. When Caleb said he had a client dinner, I believed him. When he canceled plans because he was exhausted from back-to-back meetings, I told him to get some rest. When he said he couldn't wait to finally have a place where we could just exist together, without the chaos of his job getting in the way, I thought I was hearing someone who wanted the same things I did. I pulled up the lease agreement on my phone and scrolled to the signatures. Mine. Caleb's. A landlord's stamp at the bottom. The date was 3 weeks ago, right after he'd sent me the affordability breakdown, the move-in checklist, the excited messages about how this was really happening. When did you sign? I asked. 2 months ago. So, he had her sign first, then came to me. She nodded. And told me you were his sister. The audacity of it was almost impressive. He'd lined us both up like dominoes, signed documents with both of us, collected deposits from both of us, and somehow thought he'd keep the whole thing running without either of us finding out. What was the plan? I asked, like, logistically, how is this supposed to work? I don't think there was one. Maya pulled her laptop closer and opened a spreadsheet. Dates, payments, messages. Everything organized in neat rows. He's not smart enough for a long con. He's just a liar who got lucky for a while. She clicked through to a folder labeled Rent Plus Bills and pulled up a payment record. He told me he'd cover utilities while I handled groceries and internet. But look, she pointed at the list. He hasn't paid a single utility bill since we moved in. He told me we'd split everything 50-50 once I moved in. Of course he did. I felt the anger starting to knot in my chest, but it wasn't the sharp, explosive kind. It was slow, heavy, the kind that made you feel stupid for not seeing it sooner. He's going to show up here, I said. Let him. Maya's tone was ice. She minimized the spreadsheet and opened her messages, scrolled past weeks of texts, morning check-ins, inside jokes, photos of takeout dinners. She stopped on one from 2 days ago. Can't wait to come home to you tonight. She turned the screen toward me. He sent that at 4 p.m. Know where he was at 6? I already knew the answer. Texting me? She nodded. Telling you he couldn't wait to start our life together. Her hands weren't shaking. Mine were. I set my phone down on the coffee table and pressed my palms flat against my thighs, trying to hold something steady. I gave him $2,300, I said. Same. And he just, what? Thought he'd keep both of us on the hook? Move me in and hide you, or hide me. I don't think he thought past collecting the money. That was the worst part. Not that he'd planned some elaborate scheme, but that he just stumbled into it. Lied to one of us, then the other, then kept lying because it kept working. No strategy. No endgame. Just a guy who found out he could get away with it, so he did. Maya closed her laptop. When he gets here, don't let him talk. He's good at talking. I know. He'll try to split us up. Say something to you, then pull me aside and say something different. He'll make it sound like it's all a misunderstanding. I won't listen. Good. She stood and walked to the window, looking down at the parking lot. Because I'm done listening. I didn't ask what she meant. I could hear it in her voice. The same decision I'd already made without realizing it. Whatever Caleb said when he walked through that door, it wouldn't matter. The proof was already sitting between us, time-stamped and signed. Maya turned back toward me. Do you have the lease on your phone? Yeah. Send it to me. I want both copies ready when he tries to explain this. I forwarded it without hesitating. A few seconds later, her phone buzzed, and she opened the attachment. She held her phone next to her laptop screen, comparing the two documents side by side. Same unit number, same lease term, same landlord's signature. She looked up. 2 tenants. 1 cosigner. And 1 idiot who signed his name on both. Her phone buzzed again. A text. It's him, she said. He's on his way. 20 minutes later, I heard the key in the lock. Maya was sitting on the couch, laptop open, arms crossed. I was standing by the window, still holding my phone like it was evidence I might need to produce at any second. The door swung open and Caleb walked in, already talking before he'd even looked up. Maya, listen. I can explain. Then he saw me. He stopped mid-step, grocery bag in one hand, keys in the other. His face went through 3 emotions in under a second: confusion, recognition, panic, and then settled on something that almost looked like a smile. Chloe, hey! What are you doing here? The casualness of it made my teeth clench. Like I'd just shown up early to a dinner party. Are you serious right now? Maya's voice was sharp enough to cut through whatever performance he was trying to start. Caleb set the grocery bag on the counter, slow and deliberate, buying himself time. Okay, I know this looks bad. It looks bad because it is bad, I said. He turned to me, hands up in a placating gesture. I was going to tell you. Both of you. Things got complicated and I didn't know how to. You signed 2 leases, Maya interrupted. With 2 different people for the same apartment. I know I messed up, but if you just let me explain. Explain what? I stepped away from the window. Explain how you've been dating her for over a year while you were messaging me on Flutter? Or explain how you collected deposits from both of us? His jaw tightened. It's not like that. Then what's it like? He looked at Maya, then at me, like he was trying to figure out which one of us was more likely to believe him. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I was with Maya and things were good, but then we hit a rough patch. We didn't hit a rough patch, Maya said flatly. You were pulling away. You were stressed with work and I felt like I was losing you, so He stopped himself, like he just realized how bad the sentence was about to sound. I wasn't thinking straight, so you got on Flutter and found someone else? I wasn't looking for someone else. I was just, I don't know, lost. And then I matched with Chloe and we started talking and it felt good to feel wanted again. I wanted to throw something. You told me your credit was bad and you needed help with the lease. I did need help. My score isn't great. Because you're a liar, Caleb. Not because your ex ruined your finances. He flinched. That's not fair. None of this is fair, Maya said. She stood up from the couch, laptop still open behind her. You told me Chloe was your sister. You told her I didn't exist. You collected money from both of us and moved into an apartment we both think we're supposed to live in. I was going to fix it, he said, and his voice cracked just enough to sound sincere. I swear I was going to figure it out before anyone got harmed. We're already harmed, I said. He turned to me, and for the first time, he looked genuinely distressed. Not guilty, distressed, like he was the victim here. Chloe, you have to understand. I care about you. I wasn't using you. Then what do you call this? A mistake. A huge, terrible mistake, but not, he ran a hand through his hair, exhaling hard. I never wanted to harm you. But you did. I know, and I'm sorry. I really am. He looked between us, eyes wide and pleading. I know I screwed up. I know I don't deserve either of you. But if we could just sit down and talk about this like adults, we are talking, Maya said. You're just not liking what we're saying. Caleb's expression shifted. The distress slid away, replaced by something harder. Okay, fine. What do you want me to say? That I'm a terrible person? That I lied? I did. I lied to both of you, but I'm here now trying to make it right. And you're both acting like I'm some kind of criminal. You committed fraud, I said. That's a strong word. You forged lease documents. You took money under false pretenses. I didn't forge anything. I signed a lease. 2 leases, Maya retorted. That's not illegal? She laughed, bitter and sharp. You think the landlord's going to see it that way? Caleb's face went pale. You didn't call the landlord. Not yet. Maya, don't. His voice dropped suddenly, urgent. If you call the landlord, this whole thing blows up. We all lose the apartment. Your credit gets tanked. Mine gets worse. Chloe gets dragged into it. Nobody wins. You should have thought of that before you pulled this, I said. I know, you're right. But we can still fix this without getting anyone else involved. He stepped closer to Maya, hands out like he was approaching something fragile. We've been together for over a year. You know me. You know I'm not a bad guy. I just made a stupid decision and now I'm trying to make it right. By lying more? By being honest. Finally. He turned to me. Chloe, I'm sorry. I should have told you about Maya from the beginning. But I didn't. And now we're here and I'm asking, begging both of you to just give me a chance to fix this. How? Maya's tone was ice. How do you fix this? I'll move out. You two can stay. I'll take my name off the lease, cover my share of the deposit, whatever you need. Just don't call the landlord, please. The apartment was silent. Caleb stood there, breathing hard, looking at both of us like we held his entire life in our hands. Maya picked up her phone. What are you doing? Caleb's voice went up an octave. Calling the landlord. Maya, wait. You had your chance to be honest. You used it to lie more. Caleb lunged for her phone, but she stepped back, holding it out of reach. Don't touch me. I'm not, he stopped, hands up again, and I could see the panic spreading across his face. Just wait. Please, let's talk about this. We're done talking. No, we're not. You can't just, he turned to me, desperate now. Chloe, tell her. Tell her we can work this out. I looked at him. At the man who'd sent me voice notes about hypothetical dogs and future furniture arrangements. Who'd made me believe we were building something real. You used me. I didn't. You used me to get an apartment you couldn't afford on your own. You lied to me for 3 months. You made me feel like I was important to you when all I was. My voice cracked, and I hated it. All I was to you was a credit score. Caleb's face twisted. That's not true. Then what is true, Caleb? Because everything you've said since you walked through this door has been a lie. He opened his mouth, then closed it. No comeback. No explanation. Just silence. Maya tapped her screen. The phone rang once, twice, then a man's voice answered. Summit Properties. This is Arthur. Caleb's face went white. Hi Arthur, Maya said, her voice steady. This is Maya Patel. Unit 4B. I need to talk to you about an issue with our lease. Sure. What's going on? Maya locked eyes with Caleb. There's been some confusion with the paperwork. It looks like there might be duplicate signatures on file, and I want to make sure everything's legitimate before we move forward. Duplicate signatures? Arthur sounded confused. Can you hold on a second? Let me pull up your file. The line went quiet. Caleb stood frozen in the middle of the living room, staring at Maya like she'd just set his entire life on fire. Okay, I'm looking at it now, Arthur said. I see your signature and I see. Wait, there's another cosigner listed here. Chloe Jensen. Is that you? Maya looked at me. I stepped forward, close enough to the phone that Arthur could hear me. That's me. There was a pause. I'm sorry, I'm a little confused. Are you also living in Unit 4B? I was supposed to move in today, I said. But when I got here, Maya was already living here. We both signed leases for the same apartment. Arthur didn't respond right away. When he did, his voice had shifted. Less friendly, more business. That shouldn't be possible. Our system should flag duplicate leases for the same unit. Let me check if a manual override or clerical error slipped one through. Then someone made a mistake, Maya said. Or someone lied. I'm going to need to look into this. Can you both come down to the office? We can be there in 20 minutes. Good. Bring your copies of the lease. Any payment confirmations? And, he paused. Is Caleb Miller there with you? Caleb closed his eyes. He's here, Maya said. Bring him, too. The drive to the leasing office was silent, except for the sound of Caleb's breathing in the back seat. Maya drove. I sat in the passenger seat with my folder of documents on my lap. Caleb kept trying to start sentences that died before they reached actual words. When we pulled into the parking lot, he finally managed a full thought. You don't have to do this. Maya turned off the engine. Yeah, we do. The leasing office was small, just a reception desk, a back office, and a waiting area with chairs that looked like they'd been there since the building opened. Arthur was standing by the desk when we walked in. A tall guy in his 30s with a tablet in one hand and reading glasses pushed up into his hair. Maya? He asked. That's me. She gestured to me. This is Chloe. Arthur's eyes moved to Caleb, and something in his expression shifted. Recognition, maybe? Or just the slow realization that he was about to deal with something complicated. Come on back, he said, leading us into a conference room barely big enough for the four of us and the table. He sat down, opened his tablet, and pulled up a file. Okay, walk me through what's going on. Maya slid her lease across the table. I did the same. Arthur picked up both documents, holding them side by side, his eyes moving between them like he was watching a tennis match. "These are both for Unit 4B, he said slowly. "Correct," Maya replied. "And you both signed them?" "Correct." Arthur set the leases down and looked at Caleb. "You're listed as the primary on both." Caleb opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Arthur waited, patient, but clearly not thrilled. "There was a mix-up," Caleb finally said, "with the paperwork." "A mix-up?" Arthur repeated. "Yeah, I didn't realize both leases went through." You thought what, exactly?" Arthur's tone was still professional, but there was an edge to it now. "That our system would just randomly process two separate lease agreements for the same unit without flagging it?" Caleb looked at the table. "I don't know. I wasn't thinking clearly." Arthur turned back to his tablet, scrolling through something. "Let me pull the payment records." He tapped a few times, then stopped, his jaw tightened. "Two deposits," he said. "Both cleared. Both credited to Unit 4B. He looked up. "Who paid what?" $1,500 for the deposit and $800 for first month's rent, I said. "Same," Maya added. Arthur exhaled through his nose, long and slow. "So, you collected over $4,000 in deposits and rent for a single unit?" Caleb didn't respond. "That's fraud," Arthur said. "Not as an accusation, but as a statement of fact. You understand that, right?" "I was going to pay it back," Caleb said, and his voice was so small it was almost pitiful. "When?" "I don't know. Soon. I just needed time to figure things out." Arthur leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. "Here's what I'm figuring out. You signed two leases, took money from two people, and moved into an apartment with one of them while stringing the other along. Does that sound accurate?" Caleb's silence was answer enough. Arthur turned to me. "When were you supposed to move in?" "Today. I showed up to find Maya already there, and all her stuff. I said furniture, pictures, everything. Like she'd been there for weeks." "I have been," Maya said. 2 weeks. He had the keys a month before that." Arthur made a note on his tablet. "And you, Chloe. Did Caleb ever mention that Maya existed?" "He said his sister co-signed the lease." Arthur glanced at Maya. "Are you his sister?" "No, right." He turned to Caleb. "So, you lied to both of them." Caleb shifted in his chair, looking everywhere except at Arthur. "It wasn't supposed to go like this." "How is it supposed to go?" "I thought," Caleb stopped, started again. "I thought Chloe would back out. She'd see the apartment and realize it wasn't what she wanted, or she'd change her mind, and then I'd just refund her deposit, and that would be it." I stared at him. "You thought I'd just walk away?" "You seemed hesitant about the lease." "I thought you might bail." "So, you gambled with my money and my credit on the chance that I'd bail." Caleb didn't answer. Arthur wrote something else on his tablet, then looked up at both of us. "Do you two have any connection to each other outside of Caleb?" "No," Maya and I said at the same time. "And you didn't know about each other until today?" "Correct." Arthur nodded slowly, processing. "Okay, here's where we are. This is a mess. Legally, contractually, ethically, it's a disaster. I've got 2 valid leases, 2 sets of payments, and one guy who apparently thought he could just juggle both of you indefinitely. What happens now?" Maya asked. Arthur set his tablet down. "That depends. Do either of you still want to live in Unit 4B?" Maya and I looked at each other. I'd spent 3 months imagining what it would be like to live there. Where I'd put my books. How I'd organize the kitchen. What it would feel like to finally have a place that felt like mine. But all of that was wrapped up in Caleb now, and I didn't want any of it anymore. I'll stay, Maya said. If that's an option. Arthur looked at me. Chloe? I don't want the apartment, I said. I just want my money back. That's fair. Arthur turned to Caleb. You're going to refund Chloe's deposit and rent, full amount, today. Caleb's face went pale. I don't have that kind of cash right now. Then you'll get it. I can't just, you can, and you will. Arthur's voice was firm now. No room for negotiation. Because if you don't, I'm filing a report with the leasing company's legal team and they're going to pursue fraud charges. And trust me, once that happens, this stops being a refund issue and starts being a criminal one. Caleb's mouth opened and closed like he was trying to find an argument that didn't exist. How long do I have? End of the week. That's not enough time. Then you should have thought of that before you ran this scam. Arthur turned back to Maya. As for you, if you want to stay in the unit, we're going to need to redo your lease. Caleb's name comes off entirely. You'll be the sole tenant. Chloe's name also comes off since she's withdrawing. What about my deposit? Maya asked. I already paid. Your deposit stays. You're not the one who committed fraud. Arthur tapped his tablet. I'll draw up the new lease today. You can sign it tomorrow, and we'll backdate it to your original move-in date so there's no gap in coverage. Maya nodded. And Caleb? Caleb is being removed from the lease effective immediately. The word hung in the air like a sentencing. Caleb looked up, panicked. You can't do that. I absolutely can. You violated the lease terms by subletting under false pretenses. You defrauded a cosigner, and you're currently in breach of contract with this company. I'm being generous by not calling the authorities right now. Where am I supposed to go? Not my problem. Arthur stood up, signaling the end of the conversation. You've got until Sunday to get your things out of Unit 4B. After that, Maya gets the locks changed, and if you show up, it's trespassing. Caleb stood too, but he didn't move toward the door. He just stood there, staring at Arthur like he was waiting for someone to tell him this was all a misunderstanding. Arthur wasn't interested. He opened the door and gestured for us to leave. Maya walked out first. I followed. Caleb came last, moving like he was underwater. In the parking lot, Maya turned to him. I want your keys now. Right now. Caleb pulled his keychain out of his pocket and fumbled with the apartment key, hands clumsy. He held it out to her, and she took it without a word. I'm sorry, he said, and for the first time, he actually sounded like he meant it. Maya didn't respond. She got in her car, started the engine, and drove off, leaving Caleb and me standing there in the parking lot. He looked at me. Chloe, don't. I know you hate me right now, but I need you to understand, I understand plenty. I pulled up my phone and opened my banking app. You've got until Sunday to refund my money. If I don't see it by then, I'm filing a report. I'll get it to you. I promise. Your promises don't mean anything. He flinched, but he didn't argue. I walked to my car, got in, and locked the doors before he could say anything else. When I looked in the rearview mirror, he was still standing there, alone in the parking lot, holding his phone like it might have answers. I drove back to my apartment, my actual apartment, the one I'd been planning to leave, and sat in the car for a long time, staring at the building. My boxes were still in Maya's living room. My deposit was still in Caleb's account. My lease was still active for another 2 months. Everything I'd planned was gone, but at least I wasn't the only one who knew the truth anymore. My phone buzzed. A text from Maya. You okay? I typed back, *, not really. You same, *, want to get coffee tomorrow? Compare notes, asterisk. I stared at the message for a few seconds, then replied, yeah, I'd like that. She sent back a time and a place, and I saved it to my calendar. Then I got out of the car, went upstairs, and started unpacking the one box I'd brought home with me, the one with my lease documents, my bank statements, and every text Caleb had ever sent me. I wasn't done with this yet. The coffee shop Maya picked was quiet, tucked into a corner strip mall with mismatched furniture and a chalkboard menu that hadn't been updated in weeks. I got there first, ordered something I didn't really want, and sat by the window where I could see her pull in. She arrived exactly on time, wearing jeans and a sweater that looked like she'd grabbed it off the floor without thinking. Her hair was pulled back, no makeup, and when she sat down across from me, she didn't bother with small talk. Did he refund you yet? No. Me neither. She set her phone on the table between us. He's been texting me all morning. Apologies, excuses, promises he's working on getting the money. Same here. I pulled up my messages and turned the screen toward her. A wall of texts from Caleb, each one more desperate than the last. He needed more time. He was trying to borrow from a friend. He swore he'd have it by the weekend. Maya scrolled through them, her expression flat. He's stalling. You think he's not going to pay? I think he's going to drag this out as long as possible and hope we give up. She handed my phone back. He does this. When things get hard, he stalls until the other person gets tired and moves on. How do you know? Because I've seen him do it. She opened her own messages and pulled up a thread from months ago. Caleb promising to pay her back for groceries, then utilities, then a dinner he said he'd cover. The promises stretched back weeks, always with the same tone, asterisk soon. I'm working on it. I'll get it to you, asterisk. He never paid any of this, she said. How much does he owe you? A few hundred, maybe. I stopped keeping track because it felt petty to chase him for $20 here and there. She closed the messages. But it adds up. I thought about the deposits sitting in some account. The rent payment I'd wired without a second thought. The belief I'd had that Caleb was someone who kept his word. It felt naive now. Stupid. What do we do? I asked. Maya leaned back in her chair, arms crossed. We make it harder for him to ignore us. How? By not letting him control the narrative anymore. She pulled out her laptop and opened it on the table. He's been texting both of us separately, right? Telling each of us different things, keeping us from comparing notes. We stopped letting him do that. You want to confront him together? Not confront. Corner. She turned the laptop toward me. A shared document, blank except for a header that read, asterisk Caleb Miller. Timeline, asterisk. We're going to write down everything. Every lie, every date, every payment. We're going to build a case so airtight he can't weasel out of it. I stared at the screen. It felt clinical, calculated, but also necessary. What's the goal? I asked. To get our money back. That's part of it. But I also want him to know he can't do this again. To anyone. She clicked into the document and started typing. July 9th, Caleb matches with Chloe on Flutter. He made us feel crazy, like we were the problem. I want him to see exactly what he did, in writing, with no room for excuses. I watched her type, the words appearing in neat rows. She moved fast, pulling dates from her phone, cross-referencing messages, building a structure that made the chaos feel manageable. Can I add to this? I asked. That's the point. I pulled up my phone and started scrolling back through my own texts with Caleb. The first message. The first date. The first time he mentioned the apartment. I added each one to the document, and with every entry, the pattern became clearer. He'd used the same lines on both of us, the same excuses, the same promises. He told me his ex destroyed his credit, I said, typing as I spoke. Maya looked up. He told me that, too. Said she opened credit cards in his name and maxed them out. Did you ever meet the ex? No, he said it was too painful to talk about. She laughed, bitter and sharp. Of course he did. We kept working, filling in gaps, matching timelines. When Caleb told me he was visiting his mom, he was actually with Maya. When he told her he was traveling for work, he was on a date with me. The overlap was so precise, it was almost impressive. He's not smart, Maya said, staring at the screen. He's just lucky. And we made it easy for him. We trusted him, which was the mistake. I didn't argue. She wasn't wrong. We both wanted to believe Caleb was who he said he was, and that belief had cost us. My phone buzzed. Another text from Caleb. Asterisk, I'm working on the refund. Should have it by Friday, asterisk, I showed Maya. She sighed. He's not going to have it by Friday. How do you know? Because it's Thursday. He's buying himself another week. She typed something into the document. Another entry under stalling tactics, he's going to keep pushing the deadline until we either give up or take legal action. Would legal action even work? Probably. But it's expensive and slow, and he knows most people won't bother. She closed her laptop. That's why we're not giving him the option. What do you mean? I mean, we're going to his place tonight and we're not leaving until he pays us. I blinked. Just show up? Exactly. What if he's not there? Then we wait. She pulled up a map on her phone. I have his address. Well, his mom's address. That's where he's been staying since Arthur kicked him out. How do you know that? He told me last night. Said he needed a place to crash while he figured things out. She turned the phone toward me. A house in a suburb 20 minutes away, nondescript and ordinary. He thinks I feel sorry for him. I don't. The idea of showing up unannounced felt aggressive, confrontational, but also effective. Caleb had been controlling the pace of this whole mess since the beginning. Maybe it was time to take that control back. What do we say when we get there? I asked. We don't say anything. We show him the document. We show him the texts. We give him one chance to pay us. And if he doesn't, we tell him we're filing a report. Are we actually going to file a report? If we have to. She closed the map. But I don't think it'll come to that. He's a coward. The second he realizes we're serious, he'll fold. I wasn't sure I believed that, but I also didn't have a better plan. Caleb had been dodging us for days, and every conversation felt like it ended with him promising something he had no intention of delivering. Maybe Maya was right. Maybe the only way to get through to him was to stop letting him dictate the terms. Okay, I said. Let's do it. We finished our coffee in silence, then walked out to the parking lot. Maya drove. I navigated. The address led us to a quiet street lined with trees and houses that all looked identical. Same siding, same lawns, same generic suburban sameness. Caleb's mom's house was at the end of the block, a pale blue split level with a car in the driveway that I recognized from the leasing office parking lot. He's here, Maya said. We parked across the street and sat there for a moment, staring at the house. It felt surreal, like we were about to knock on a stranger's door and demand answers from someone who'd spent months pretending we didn't exist. Ready? Maya asked. I wasn't, but I nodded anyway. We got out of the car and walked up the driveway. Maya knocked, firm and deliberate. Footsteps inside. The door opened and Caleb's mom stood there, mid-50s, with reading glasses on a chain around her neck, looking at us like we were solicitors. Can I help you? We're looking for Caleb, Maya said. He's not here. His car's in the driveway. She glanced back over her shoulder, then sighed. Hold on. She disappeared into the house. We waited. A minute later, Caleb appeared in the doorway, looking like he'd just woken up from a nap. His expression shifted the second he saw both of us standing there. What are you doing here? We need to talk, Maya said. I told you I'm working on the money. We're done waiting. She pulled out her phone and opened the shared document. We wrote down everything. Every lie, every date, every dollar. And if you don't refund us by tomorrow, we're filing a fraud report. Caleb's face went pale. You can't do that. We absolutely can. She turned the phone toward him. Look at it. This is what you did. In writing. With timestamps. He stared at the screen, his jaw working like he was trying to find words that didn't exist. His mom appeared behind him, arms crossed, looking between the three of us. Caleb, what's going on? He didn't answer. Maya did. Your son scammed both of us out of thousands of dollars, and now he's stalling because he thinks we'll give up. Caleb's mom looked at him, waiting for a denial that never came. Is that true? It's complicated, he muttered. It's really not, I said. His mom's expression hardened. She turned to Caleb, and her voice dropped into something cold and sharp. Inside, now. Caleb hesitated, then disappeared into the house. His mom stayed in the doorway, looking at both of us. How much does he owe you? Maya told her. I added my amount. She nodded slowly, processing. Give me until tomorrow, she said. I'll make sure you get your money back. Why should we trust that? Maya asked. Because I'm not my son. She stepped back and started to close the door. You'll have it by noon tomorrow. Both of you. The door clicked shut. Maya and I stood there staring at it. Think she'll actually do it? I asked. Yeah, Maya said. I do. We walked back to the car. My phone buzzed. A text from Caleb. You didn't have to involve my mom, I didn't respond. Neither did Maya. We just drove back in silence, the document still open on her phone. Every lie catalogued and undeniable. The next morning, at 11:30, my phone buzzed with a bank notification. Deposit received, the full amount. Deposit and rent, down to the last dollar. I stared at the screen, refreshing it twice to make sure it was real. Then I texted Maya. Did you get it? * just now. Full refund. His mom came through, * told you she would. I sat there on my couch, phone in hand, trying to figure out what I was supposed to feel. Relief, maybe vindication, but mostly I just felt tired, like I'd been holding my breath for days and could finally exhale, except now my lungs didn't remember how. My phone rang. Maya, hey, I answered. We should go back to the leasing office, she said. Make sure everything's finalized with Arthur. I want Caleb's name completely off the lease, and I want it in writing. When? Now. I'll pick you up in 20. She hung up before I could argue. 20 minutes later, I was in her car again. Both of us heading back to Summit Properties with our phones full of screenshots and our bank accounts finally whole. Arthur was at the front desk when we walked in, and the second he saw us, he waved us back to the conference room without a word. He already had papers spread out on the table, new lease documents, termination forms, and what looked like an incident report. Good news, he said, gesturing for us to sit. Caleb's officially off the lease as of this morning. Maya, you're the sole tenant now. Chloe, your name's been removed as well per your request. What about the deposits? Maya asked. Both refunds were processed yesterday through a third party. I'm assuming that was his mother. It was. Arthur nodded. Good. That saves us a lot of paperwork. I've also flagged Caleb's name in our system. He won't be able to sign another lease with this company, and I've sent a report to the local Property Management Association recommending they do the same. So, he's blacklisted? I said. In this area. Yes. Most reputable property managers communicate about tenants who commit fraud. It won't stop him everywhere, but it'll make it significantly harder for him to pull this again. Arthur slid the new lease toward Maya. This is yours. Single tenant, no cosigners. If you want to add someone later, we can amend it, but for now, it's just you. Maya picked up the lease and flipped through it, checking every line. When does this take effect? It's backdated to your original move-in date, so you're covered from day one. Rent stays the same. Everything else is standard. He turned to me. Chloe, I need you to sign a release form acknowledging that you're voluntarily removing yourself from the lease and that your deposit's been refunded in full. He pushed a form across the table. I read it twice, then signed. It felt surreal, watching my name disappear from a document that had once represented a future I thought I wanted. What happens to Caleb now? Maya asked. Arthur leaned back in his chair. That's not really my concern anymore. He's off the lease. He's out of the unit. And as far as this company is concerned, he doesn't exist. What you two do with the information you have is up to you. Could we press charges? I asked. You could. Fraud, theft by deception, maybe a few other things depending on how aggressive you want to be. But that's a conversation for a lawyer, not a property manager. He closed the folder in front of him. For what it's worth, you two handled this better than most people would have. A lot of tenants in your situation just walk away and eat the loss. We're not most people, Maya said. Arthur smiled, faint but genuine. Clearly. We finished the paperwork, shook hands, and walked out into the parking lot. The sun was too bright, the air too crisp, like the world hadn't gotten the memo that everything had just shifted. What now? I asked. Maya unlocked her car, but didn't get in. Now I go home and change the locks. And you? She paused, looking at me. You figure out what you actually want. Not what Caleb told you to want. What you want. It was such a simple statement, but it hit harder than I expected. For 3 months, I'd been planning a life that was never real. A future built on voice notes and Pinterest boards and promises that dissolved the second they were tested. I don't know what I want, I admitted. That's fine. You've got time to figure it out. She opened her car door, then stopped. You want to grab dinner sometime? Like, actually get to know each other without Caleb in the middle of it. I smiled. Yeah, I'd like that. Good. I'll text you. She got in the car, and I watched her drive off, the lease documents sitting on the passenger seat beside her. I walked to my own car and sat there for a minute, staring at my phone. Caleb had texted me 3 more times since yesterday. Apologies, explanations, a request to talk things through like adults. I deleted the messages without reading them all the way through. Then I blocked his number. My phone buzzed again. A text from my best friend asking how everything went. I typed out a response, then stopped. The whole story felt too big for a text message. Too complicated. Too exhausting. Instead, I just wrote, I'll tell you over drinks. Long story. Happy ending, She responded immediately with a string of question marks and a time to meet later that night. I confirmed, then set my phone down and started the drive home. When I got back to my apartment, the one I'd been planning to leave, the one that suddenly felt like the only stable thing in my life, I noticed the boxes I'd packed were still stacked by the door. I'd been so focused on the fallout with Caleb that I hadn't bothered to unpack them. I opened the first box. Kitchen stuff. Plates I'd bought on sale. Mugs I'd collected over the years. A set of mixing bowls I'd never actually used. I pulled everything out and put it back where it belonged, one item at a time, reclaiming space I'd almost given up. By the time I finished, the apartment looked exactly the way it had before Caleb. Before the lease, before the idea that someone else's plan for my life was better than my own. My phone buzzed one more time. Maya. Asterisk locks are changed. Feels good. Thanks for having my back, asterisk I typed back, thanks for having mine, she sent back a thumbs up, and I set my phone down. The apartment was quiet. The boxes were unpacked. My bank account was whole again. And somewhere across town, Caleb was explaining to his mother how he'd managed to scam 2 women at once and still come out of it with nothing. I didn't feel sorry for him. I didn't feel angry anymore either. I just felt done. The Flutter app was still on my phone, buried in a folder I hadn't opened in weeks. I pulled it up, stared at it for a second, then deleted it. Not because I'd sworn off dating or because Caleb had ruined my faith in people. Just because I didn't need it right now. What I needed was to remember what it felt like to trust my own judgment, to build a life that didn't hinge on someone else's approval or promises or carefully curated texts. And maybe, eventually, I'd get that dog just for me. A week later, Maya sent me a photo of her apartment. Looks good, I texted back. Asterisk feels better. Coffee this weekend? Asterisk absolutely. We met at the same coffee shop, ordered the same drinks, and spent an hour talking about anything except Caleb. She told me about her job, her family, the book she was reading. I told her about the freelance project I'd picked up, the pottery class I was thinking about taking, the fact that my apartment actually felt like mine again. It was easy, comfortable. The kind of friendship that forms when 2 people survive the same disaster and come out the other side without any illusions left. Have you heard from him? She asked eventually. No. Blocked him everywhere. You same? His mom called me once to apologize. I told her it wasn't her fault and that we were square. Maya stirred her coffee. I think he's staying with a friend now. Or maybe he moved. I don't really care. Good. Yeah. She smiled, small and genuine. It is. We finished our coffee, made plans to meet again, and went our separate ways. On the drive home, I passed a shelter I'd driven by 100 times without stopping. This time, I pulled in. The moment I walked into the viewing area, a scruffy terrier mix launched himself at the glass, tail whipping so fast it blurred. He pressed his face against the barrier, eyes locked on mine. That's Biscuit, the volunteer said. He's usually pretty mellow. This is new. I knelt down, and Biscuit's paw scraped against the glass like he was trying to dig through to me. Can I meet him? 5 minutes later, I was on the floor of a meet and greet room and Biscuit was in my lap, licking my face. He burrowed under my arm, laid his head on my leg, and started napping. He's been here 2 months, the volunteer said. Just hasn't found his person yet. I think he just did. 20 minutes later, I was signing adoption papers and Biscuit was in my passenger seat, head out the window, ears flapping as we drove home. When I unlocked my apartment door, he trotted inside, circled the living room twice, then jumped onto the couch like he'd lived there his whole life. Turns out I got the dog after all. You know, sometimes, I still wonder what would have happened if Maya hadn't been home that day.